Welcome to our October newsletter. As we step into autumn, we hope you've enjoyed the wonderful summer weather we've had and are looking forward to engaging in exciting cultural events to while away the coming chilly winter months. It's also the perfect time to get up to speed with our online gatherings. We've just run September skill sets, AD Soups and VI user group meetings, recordings and notes of which will be available very soon on the members resources page of the Ada website when you log in. These are great opportunities to connect, learn, and share insights with fellow AD users and professionals. Do join in future events. Look out for email notifications of upcoming dates. Listen back and let us know what you think. If you're not yet a member but want access to this large archive of invaluable resources, it's very easy to join. Just click on this link to the Ada website, www.audiodescription.co.uk/join-Ada. Ada have exciting news. We have secured a £32,500 grant from the Ian Carton Charitable Trust, IKCT, the legacy of Ian Carton MBE, a visionary man who saw the difference technology can make to the lives of disabled people. The charity champions educational and technological support initiatives for disabled people to live active and engaged lives. The funding will support ADA to create a new globally available online self-led training program for audio describers, Fundamentals of Audio Description for Screen. There is currently no accredited standard of training for audio describers. Much of the current Screen AD that exists is not only of poor quality, but has originated from a place of limited understanding of what blind and visually impaired audiences require or are looking for. The course will be co-produced with blind and partially sighted people, free to access and designed to raise standards across the sector. The initiative will be led by ADA's own Veronica Hicks, the UK's acknowledged expert in the skills of AD. Both Veronica and fellow ADA colleague Andrew Piper have collated many hours of interviews with VI users of screen description, detailing their views on what is and isn't good AD. These will feature prominently in the course, which will be designed to equip audio describers with the practical skills, ethical awareness, and writing techniques needed to produce high-quality, inclusive audio description. Over 8 modules, the course will blend theory, audience insight, examples and hands-on practical exercises, ensuring that learners develop skills grounded in lived experience and best inclusive practice. By the end, participants will be able to produce clear, audience-centered AD scripts that enhance accessibility and storytelling across genres. Veronica Hicks, Ada Executive Committee member, said, "We are delighted and grateful to the Ian Carton Charitable Trust for this award. Our overarching goal is that people who are blind or visually impaired have far greater access to culture with quality audio description delivered for screen. It means that fundamentally, Ada can now begin to address the low-cost box-ticking approach to accessibility practiced by many streamers and organisations, including their use of AI for audio description, the quality of which is currently extremely low. By equipping audio describers with the tools and confidence to deliver a quality service for users. When launched, it is Ada's hope that the AD Screen course will be recognised nationally and internationally as the best practice guide for audio description, led and designed by people with visual impairment. Describers who have completed it will have achieved strong professional standards, which will positively impact on their own career development. By producing this, Ada will set new standards which can and will, in the future, help train AI, bringing additional benefits for making screen culture more accessible for blind and partially sighted people. Evaluation findings will also inform future iterations of the course and can be shared with sector partners to promote best practice. Between now and the end of the year, we'll be scoping out what the course will look like in more detail. If you work in Screen AD and would like to get involved in this project, or if you have experience of or connections with people who work in video production or have relevant filming experience for online learning delivery, please contact Pamela our administrator at admin@audiodescription.co.uk, with thanks to the Ian Carton Charitable Trust. From Research to Reality, AIAD at IBC 2025, by Cara Edney, ADA Executive Committee member. Earlier this year, the ARSAD conference in Barcelona explored the role of creativity in the age of generative AI. The conversations there were research-driven and often philosophical. How should describers help shape tomorrow's standards, and what frameworks are needed to keep quality at the heart of accessibility? The International Broadcasting Convention, IBC by contrast, is a very different environment. Where ARSAD looks ahead, IBC is all about what is happening right now on the exhibition floor. It is where commercial companies showcase their latest technology to potential clients, and where the broadcast industry gets a glimpse of what could be around the corner. I attended last year and left saying that while the demos were impressive, there was still no true solution for audio description. A year later, that has not changed, but there is no denying the technology has advanced. Interfaces are sharper, tools are more intuitive, and the conversation has shifted from if to how AI will be used. Across the exhibition halls this year, I discovered 3 major AI-based video description solutions on display. Each offered polished demonstrations. Videos automatically analysed, objects detected, and synthetic voices narrating. On the surface, it all looked impressive. Yet when asked about style guides, QC workflows, or consultation with blind and visually impaired audiences, the answers were less convincing. Developers often understand the technical mechanics of describing an image, but not the storytelling and accessibility principles that underpin audio description as we practice it. As describers, we know the distinction. Having words on a track does not automatically make content accessible. The real challenge is that key decision makers in boardrooms do not always understand this nuance. Faced with polished demos, there is a danger they will see the AI software as a tick-box solution, thinking, that will be good enough, and push it into workflows without the quality checks our audiences deserve. There are, however, genuine opportunities. While no company that I know of has, as yet, rolled out a true hybrid workflow in production, it is the direction many are talking about. The idea is that AI could draft the basics, with human describers refining, correcting, and adding style and nuance. Research studies suggest this could reduce repetitive labour while still relying on human judgment for accessibility, but it remains to be tested in real-world AD contexts. An important question follows: do AI developers even understand what the basics are? Those of us who researched, crafted, and curated the basics know instinctively what they should be. But given the patchy and often substandard audio description currently being offered to blind and partially sighted audiences, many suppliers do not. The basics will need to be hardwired into any system, because if cost saving drives adoption, human refinement may be pushed aside. Yet that refinement is precisely where accessibility and quality are protected. The most immediate applications are in corporate video, short-form news, and educational content, areas with fast turnaround and increasing compliance pressure under the European Accessibility Act EAA. For long-form film and television, where nuance, timing, and creative interpretation are essential, the tools still have some distance to travel. Practical issues remain too. Content security may limit freelancers' ability to upload unreleased material, and large video files demand computing power that not everyone has. Yet integration into existing AD workflows is not impossible. With commitment from streamers and software providers, secure API solutions could allow tools to slot more naturally into production pipelines. For ADA members, the key takeaways are clear. AI is coming quickly, but its usefulness for both blind and partially sighted people and describers will depend on how it is integrated and tested. Opportunities are already emerging in some content areas, but film and television still demand the craft only humans can provide. advocacy remains vital so that decision makers understand accessibility means more than a tick box exercise. At this stage, our role is about watching closely and asking the right questions. At IBC, we established contact with several developers and opened the door to dialogue. The next stage will involve obtaining full demos, thoroughly testing the software, and providing informed feedback based on professional AD expertise. My fellow ADA Executive Committee member and Screen AD guideline setter Veronica Hicks and I will be pursuing these opportunities with ADA's support. It is too early to know how far this will go, but the signs are positive. Where RSAD left me hopeful about the frameworks we need, IBC left me realistic about the tools we actually have. There is still no one complete solution, but there has been tangible progress. The months ahead will tell us whether those polished demos can withstand the scrutiny of real-world use and whether the technology can truly support the craft we all know is essential to creating quality audio description. This is just one take on where AI and AD might be heading. Do you have thoughts of your own? We'd love to hear them. If you'd like to write a future piece or you're a VI member keen to get involved, drop us a line at admin@audiodescription.co.uk. ADA are also currently looking forward to working with new organisations and individuals in the coming year. We are in the process of setting up an international working group. If you are interested, please contact Tim Calvert, info@audiodescription.co.uk for more information.
Veronica Hicks, ADA Executive Committee member, author of the ITC Screen Audio Description Guidelines 2000, and co-author of the EBU Handbook for Quality AD 2023, discusses AD in cinema. We hear a lot about nothing about us without us, which, though catchy, has not caught on with the speed that it should have done in my view. After 30 years, I find it extraordinary that VI users are still not active players in the quality control of AD, neither at the trainee and recruitment stage, nor as regards feedback. If VI audiences were told the name of the audio describer, writer and reader at the start or end of a program, that would be a step forward because the quality of AD you get is down to the person writing and/or delivering it. How many times does that need saying? As it stands, visually impaired users rarely know whose words or voice they are listening to when they select the AD option. And if they want to give feedback, how do they go about it? It sometimes feels as if service providers deliberately omit the name so that VI audiences are left without the ammunition they need to critique a description, or indeed, without the opportunity to give praise where it is due. TV and streaming platforms have long used the credit roll of a program to promote the next show or go straight into the next episode while end credits of the program are still rolling. So the chances of hearing the name of the describer are pretty slim, even if it is read out. In cinema, some distributors do give the name of the describer, but only after the feature has long finished and the last credit on screen is disappearing into the gloom, by which time most people will have left the building. More often than not, a feature ends, the main production credits are read out, and then there can be up to 5 minutes of verbal silence with just the music soundtrack playing. Depending on the length of the credit roller, there is no indication given to the VI listener as to whether they should be getting up to leave or wait till the end to hear the name of the describer. If it were up to me, the describer's name would always come as soon after the end of the feature as possible. Currently, there is no consistent mechanism available for finding out who the describer is in order to pass on feedback. AD is still regarded as an add-on even after all this time. The suppliers of post-production subtitles and translations are always credited on screen, but AD is at best discretional. However, even if the name of the describer is supplied, what do you do then? Finding a phone number or the right department to feedback to is a chore, and as everyone is busy, more often than not, people don't. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, the AD is only as good as the person who creates and/or delivers it. Sadly, so much of what is out there is downright poor, showing little or no understanding of the nature of AD or the visual content that is being described. A few do have that knack, with an instinctive ability, but most people need proper training by people who know what makes good description. Involving VIAD experts in the recruitment and training process therefore seems more important than ever. Some may feel that I am being overly critical, and that if audiences feel they get the gist of what is happening on screen, then that is enough. However, the many comments I receive from audiences suggest otherwise. People are not happy to hear descriptions repeatedly prefaced with the word now. Now he's in bed. Now he's putting on the kettle. Or now he is going to his car. Now, like many other pointer words, is correct from time to time, not all the time. Or one-word descriptions which offer no context and no verbal inflection, and therefore no purpose. A photo. A room. Bristol hovers over the suspension bridge. What does that sentence even mean? Many describers list visuals as they appear but with no context. The VI listener needs to understand what is going on, not just be told what is on screen. Chris studies a photo. A bedroom door opens. The word Bristol hovers over the suspension bridge. Or more simply, a view of the Bristol suspension bridge. Better know AD than an unhelpful one. Say what you see has become the everyday mantra of many service providers, but just saying something is there does not explain it to someone who cannot see it. It often feels as if describers are talking to a sighted person, not to someone who is blind, which somewhat defeats the object of the exercise. A man comes down the road. What road? What kind of road? What kind of man? Because there is now so much content, many AD suppliers no longer factor in time to preview content or, more critically, review the AD ahead of broadcast. A describer was recently heard to say quite emphatically that they never watch the content before they start scripting. I am sorry, but ignorance of the content is a deadly sin. All the more reason to involve VI audio description consultants in the recruitment process and receiving regular and consistent feedback. A possible mechanism to make feedback quick and easy might be a free phone number, WhatsApp or social media link, or whatever works for VI people. Yes, feedback would have to be monitored, but surely broadcasters and content producers must want to know that a good service is being provided, and if not, why not? I appeal to visually impaired users to lobby for a feedback platform. Otherwise, standards will never improve. We need you to become central to the conversation. Audio description needs your input.
Other news and updates.
Due to October being our newsletter month, we have not published our normal monthly bulletin with our usual roundup of regional and national listings and event highlights. Remember, what's on listings of all forthcoming cultural events can also be found at the following links: vocalise.co.uk, officiallondontheatre.com/access/audio, mindsidedescription.co.uk, www.yourlocalcinema.com/ad.html, accessiblescreeningsuk.co.uk,
AD soups, skill sets, and VI groups.
Unfortunately, due to illness, the planned VI user group meeting on audio description of tours of buildings, which was due to take place on the 7th of October, has had to be postponed. We will publish the rearranged date in the November edition of our bulletin, out at the beginning of next month.
Dates for your calendar of remaining 2025 sessions are as follows.
5th November, audio description at outdoor events, including fireworks, opera, plays. 4th December, audio described adverts.
September ADA soup and skill set sessions.
A handout and recording of our September AD soup session and our skill set session on describing sexual and erotic content will be in the members' resources area of the website very soon.
ADA 2025 AGM, a summary from our chair, Edward Copisaro. We held our AGM on Tuesday, the 23rd of September, and were pleased to welcome Tom Bailey as a new member of the ADA Executive Committee. All those joining the Executive Committee for the first time are invited to submit a biographical sentence or two, and Tom will bring significant experience to our board. As General Manager and Access Lead at Park Theatre London, I have advanced accessible programming, policy development, and staff training in BSL and inclusive practice. I have introduced initiatives improving audience journeys and supported smaller producers with access strategies. A collaborative and pragmatic leader, I am committed to embedding access across the sector. In addition to Tom joining the committee, 2 other members have expressed interest in finding out more about becoming a trustee. Megan Smith is an audio describer who trained with Ros Chalmers at the Orange Tree Theatre and now works freelance and through Vocalize. Alex Stone is one of our newest VI members and has extensive experience as an assistive technologist and is a comprehensive user of AD on TV/Netflix, etc. They have been invited to join our annual virtual away day on the 14th of October, where we scope our work for the year ahead. We'll be looking to co-opt them if they remain willing by the end of the day. We said a huge thank you to Ros Chalmers and Trish Hodson, who have completed their terms of office. Ros returned to the ADA Exec in 2023 to help get training re-established, leading the working group on training for live performance for the whole of her term of office. With Anne Hornsby and Mo Pickering-Symes, the ADA curriculum was brought up to date and included touch tours and describing dance for the first time. Ros delivered a pilot training course at the Orange Tree Theatre in Richmond, and the curriculum has now been adopted by the National Theatre and Vocalize for their forthcoming training of global majority describers. Trish's role has been more behind the scenes, but critical to the revival and growth of the ADA membership. She took over from Joe Whitfield as membership secretary in 2023 and managed the growth from 70 to 270 members by being the epitome of efficiency. Trish will be staying on briefly to support our new administrator Pamela in the handover of membership renewals through to the end of October. We also say goodbye to Karen Limper-Hertz of the British Library. She joined us 2 years ago, just before the massive cyber attack at the library, which completely transformed her working life, but nonetheless she managed to contribute to the running of the charity and our museums, galleries and heritage sites working group. We bid farewell and thank you to Oscar White of Royal and Derngate Theatres, Northampton. As well as being our expert on venue accessibility, Oscar did amazing work sorting our historic contact lists, membership data and website migration. Without him, we would not have been able to organise ourselves to develop the newsletters or promote AD Soups and Skills sets. The Executive Committee is a fluid team, as well as those who complete their terms of office. We have members who step away before their terms of office are up. We've recently said farewell and thank you to Paul Downs, who was co-opted during the year to serve as Honorary Secretary, to Ellen Adams, who led our working group on museums, galleries and heritage sites, and to Yusuf Osman, who established our ADVI user group sessions, which he will continue to be involved with, and has done a huge amount to promote ADA's free VI membership offer. Planning to retire as trustees as soon as is convenient, a former Honorary Treasurer and Screen Description Working Group co-leader Andrew Piper and VI user and theatre buff Maggie Rosen, who has been co-leading our VI user group with Yusuf Osman. Tim Calvert, Edward Copisaro, Cara Edney, Veronica Hicks and Enrico Martinez will continue to serve another 2 years in their current roles. If you, or someone you know, has relevant skills and some time to offer, please get in touch with our chair, Edward Copisaro, via admin@audiodescription.co.uk. You can join one of our quarterly online board meetings to see what's involved in being a trustee, or if you have a few spare hours a month, consider becoming a volunteer supporter. In the meantime, we remain your executive committee.
Okay, so if you can introduce yourself, tell me who you are, what your current status is, what you're currently working on, or what's important to you at the moment.
My name is Veronica Hicks, and I have been involved in audio description, screen audio description, pretty much since it began. I think I was part of the whole business of beginning it. Currently, I am an executive member of ADA, and I work in theatre, on screen, but I'm also trying to complete a tome, a handbook, the European Blind Union handbook on quality screen AD, which has taken quite a long time. But I've been writing it with a very accomplished person who is herself blind. And we have been writing this thing together, which I think is the most important thing that I am doing, as we have the blind perspective as well as mine. So much of the rest of what we hear about is somebody else's opinion, someone who is sighted, laying down the law of AD, whereas it really needs to be the point of view of a blind person who is trying to explain to describers of the future what they should or should not be doing.
Can you speak a little bit about the importance of that, the importance of this guide, this Bible, and what the process has been along the way?
Well, it's an attempt to put down the essential aspects of AD. I mean, we are 30 years on in this business. It all started, the beginning of the 2000s or even before that. And like with everything, people develop their own styles of doing things. But basically, we wanted with this handbook to be able to tell people who are starting out, or indeed those who have been doing it for a long time, if they're interested in reading it, just what they should be doing, or perhaps not do the things that they are doing. The general standard of AD on screen is so patchy, it's so mixed. Some of it, obviously, is good, but there's an awful lot that isn't good. And this handbook is trying to set out the reasons why something works and something doesn't. And that's, I feel, is where there's a huge lack of understanding. Obviously, if it's written by a blind person, we can trust what they're saying because it's their point of view rather than ours. So we've been writing this together to explain AD. People say, oh, I understand exactly how it works. I mustn't talk over other people. I mustn't say too much. So they know in theory what the rules are, but they don't really, because the evidence is there. Describe characters. A man. That's all you get. There are so many things that just aren't working. The idea and hope is that the handbook will be one of the many reference documents that people can turn to, and particularly with AI on the horizon. That's the thing. We humans may not be doing this for very long because companies want to be efficient, cost-effective, and for them, AI is the solution. So probably quite soon, the human aspect of this is going to be replaced, which is why it's very important that the how and the why of AD are fed into any future AI tool that is going to be governing audio description technology so that audiences of the future get the best AD they can.
We'll come back to this in a moment, but can we go back to the beginning and what actually got you into audio description in the first place?
I started working as a continuity announcer for Channel 4. I had been in the theatre for 3 or 4 years, being an actor, and then becoming lured away to broadcasting, working at Bush House or the BBC World Service. And I got a job in continuity, which is all about writing to time and speaking live in between the programs. And then I was asked by Channel 4 if I would be interested in becoming a researcher for a new thing called audio description that the European Union is trying to find out whether audio description on television was feasible. So I took a deep breath and applied for the job. There were only 2 of us applying. I was terrified. But anyway, I got the job and miraculously, it suited me down to the ground. I just seemed to have the right tools with which to do this work. Knowing how to write to time, and being able to broadcast my voice, because that's actually been my job for at least half my career. I have been the female voiceover on British television for quite a long time. So all these three things which came together as I started researching. And the marvelous thing is that I was only part of this European project. There were other technical people, academics, and so forth. But I had the opportunity to work with hundreds, and I mean hundreds of blind and partially sighted people. We spent hours and hours talking about what AD should be. And with that knowledge, I managed to compile a document. That was my first document, which was part of the ITC guidelines and which was the basis of all subsequent guidelines. After that, there was a bit of a hiatus, actually, because, of course, we needed legislation to make AD work. It was all a very good idea, but until there was legislation saying you had to provide it, who was going to invest in it? But eventually, the broadcasting bill laid down the law and said, yes, audio description must be included, just as subtitles had already been adopted. During the 3 years that we were waiting for the legislation, I went off and produced a program about diet. But eventually, there was the legislation and companies started to set up departments and so on. And I started to work with a small company because I didn't want to be tied. I didn't wish to be an employee. Yeah, I had a daughter and my other work, and so I wanted to be a free agent. But we set up this unit in Soho, and I found a fantastic colleague to help me, Stephen Dobbin, who, among the many people I've come across in the last 30 years, but he's one of only about half a dozen that I think really brilliant. I know it's sad to say that, but he certainly was. Sadly, he's no longer with us. And indeed, while we were doing the research, I also worked with a fantastic guy, James O'Hara, who later went off to head the unit at ITFC, and many describers who are now working were trained by him. So he was my acolyte. I trained him, he trained them. So I knew that they were in safe hands.
With such an illustrious career, with so many achievements, what would you say are your memorable highlights?
I think the beginnings of anything are very exciting, and not to do with AD, but I think joining Channel 4 when it started was an incredibly exciting thing to do because it was the beginning of a new channel. So equally with AD, doing the research, speaking to the people, addressing conferences, all of that was very exciting. And then starting to do the work. And back in the 80s, goodness me, we worked on so many marvelous films. I didn't do very much television because that was really taken up by Red Bee and ITV. So I've always really been involved in film, which I think is actually the hardest thing. You start with a clean slate. You have to lure your listener in from the word go, for at least an hour and a half, if not 2.5 hours. So I've always worked on film. And so what were my highlights of those films back in those days? The Hours, Casino Royale, I don't know, hundreds. Literally hundreds of films. During COVID, I had a very interesting time because just at that moment, the streamers were beginning to happen. Suddenly we had Amazon, Netflix, Apple, all these organizations coming along and deciding to provide audio description using the describers that were already doing it, but presumably also having to find others. And I was asked to take on a huge project, hundreds of hours of AD. And, well, my little unit was quite small. So I brought in as many people from outside as I could, including quite a lot of audio describers who worked for Vocalize, who suddenly, because of COVID, had no work at all. So that was very interesting, bringing people who were trained in theatre description and, trying to teach them the differences. The second interesting part of it was I found out just how awful so many describers were. Forgive me for saying it, but people came and said, I've been doing this for 10 years. I would like to come and join you. And with my other very talented colleague, Andrew Piper, we sifted through all the people who applied to us. And I'm afraid we rejected a great number of them. Now, I had no idea about this because I was working so hard for my little company that I didn't know what was going on around me. But clearly, people hadn't been trained properly. They hadn't received the kind of training that I was able to give after having completed the Auditel project. When you've done the work yourself, you should be able to impart it to others. But further down the road, if someone just gives you a leaflet and says, okay, these are the guidelines, off you go, sit down, describe. That's not training at all. So I found out just what was happening in the business in general terms. And I wouldn't have been able to do that, I suppose, without COVID, actually.
How influential do you feel that you've been in TV and film audio description over the years?
It's very much been through my relationships with blind and partially sighted people, because I have always had a very strong relationship, both in theatre description, The Orange Tree for 22 years, Vocalize, but I've always been very close to the audience. And I think that has made me better at what I do, because I'm always thinking about it from their point of view. And I suspect that the way the industry has developed, they don't have time to think about that. They just have project number 5, it's got to be done by tomorrow. There's hardly time to stand and stare. But I think my influence, certainly around Europe, I've been contacted a lot by Europeans who know of my reputation, know of what I've written. I must have been influential without necessarily thinking about it.
In relation to the way the industry is now in regard to audio description, what are your thoughts on the future of audio description on film and television?
I think, as everybody is discussing AI, I think AI is what is going to happen. I have noticed myself over the last 7 years or so that more and more companies, because they're very security conscious, are developing their own software. So when we started, you chose a software, mine goes back 30 years, we're still using it, but more and more safeguards have been put in place because companies are terrified of having their content stolen or whatever. So they're developing their own platforms. And these platforms are quite restrictive, actually. They don't give you the chance to write something, think again, go back, change something in the way you do when you're writing a novel or whatever it is. You're always crossing out, going back on yourself and so on. They don't allow you to do that because it's such a technical thing. It's just technically complicated, and you're no longer the free agent you were to create in your own time as you want. So now you're very much dictated anyway by the technology. Added to which, of course, they're all trying to think of how AI can speed up the process and keep the costs down. As it is, a lot of these streamer companies are using suppliers that they trust. A lot of trusted suppliers are using freelancers and paying them far less than they would have earned 20 years ago. That's just the way it is. They want to cost save. They're not particularly interested in what you write, but it's just, does it work with the software? Is it going to be delivered on time? So already you're restricted by that. And there are different platforms everywhere. There are at least 4 or 5 which people are using. So it's a bit like, you can't sit on your own chair. You have to sit in the chair into which they put you. The first time I did it, it was like a straitjacket. I thought, this is not me. You get used to it, of course. So how much easier it will be if AI can take some of the strain away. So if you sit down to a description and you press a button, an AI will produce a draft of a script, which you or someone will then go through to see if it's correct, to make any adjustments that need doing. But it will probably save any individual 5 or 6 hours, maybe 2 days. It just depends on how fast they work. So I think AI is the future. And as far as I'm concerned, the one thing that must happen is that AI tools must be trained on the best AD there is. So I'm going to supply as much of my own work to anyone who wants it so that they can train on that, because I am secure in the knowledge that what I had produced is of the standard that's needed. What we don't want is for substandard AD to become the norm. The challenge is going to be what AI tool is going to be the most cost effective for companies to use and easiest to use. So these are the discussions that are happening, but it's definitely going to happen. And for certain type of content, AI will be the answer. Now, maybe not for the most important films or TV programs, but who knows? If it gets really good, it's going to be so much easier to use a machine than a person who might have a cold.
How do you feel that AI will impact on the industry as a whole, though? So things like work for describers, the quality of audio description, and the end result for those who are visually impaired.
I would say that there is a lot of AD out there that's not very good. And therefore, I suspect that an AI tool that has been properly trained would be a lot better than that, which is sad to say. But I think that is true. Business has changed. People who went into subtitling, were doing it all themselves. Now a lot of it is automated. Business models change. The most important thing is that the AI tools are trained on the good stuff. And we've got 30 years of stuff that we can choose from. But I would like to be part of that process to identify what is good and what isn't.
So, but how do you think we safeguard against them not being trained on the good stuff?
I don't know whether we can involve government in this, whether anyone is remotely interested. But I think it has to come from our audience, our blind and partially sighted audience, to make their feelings known, to write to their MP, to write to the powers that be, to say, yes, all right, we understand AI is a thing of the future. I mean, a lot of people are already using Be My Eyes, for example, as an app, aren't they? And it works. So I think it's going to be up to the community, the people who benefit from AD, to make their view known. We know that 10 years ago, when synthesized voices were suddenly brought in, there was a bit of an outcry. In America particularly, there was an outcry. They didn't want to have synthesized voices, but they've got much better. They were terrible, very robotic to start with, but they're much better. And in fact, nowadays, some people can't tell the difference. So things do move on. But in order to safeguard the standard, the rules of how to create good AD, well, we need to be involved. I think that organizations like the RNIB and other blind organizations should also be part of the conversation to ensure that the AI tool has the best examples to work on.
And what are you most proud of during your career in audio description?
Well, in theatre, obviously, when you come out at the end of the show and people are beaming at you, beaming and happy, and they've had a brilliant time, that's fantastic. In screen, which of course is a much more lonely business because you're just you and the screen and you don't really know until you hear some responses. I mean, that's the thing. You don't always get feedback. And that's one of the problems of AD, is that feedback is quite difficult to do. I mean, if someone is watching a TV program and there's an AD and they want to be able to say, well, that was marvelous, or it wasn't. How do they do that? They barely get a chance to hear the name of the person doing it. They don't necessarily know which channel and so on. It's quite hard work to be able to feedback. However, over the last few years, I was fortunate enough to work on The Crown, which was a 7-year project. Royal palaces, beautiful costumes, wonderful acting, what's not to like about it? And obviously I'm a royalist, obviously must be. So, I mean, that was just a joy to do. And I have received a lot of wonderful comments about that. So that was terrific. I also worked on 5 series of Black Mirror, which was fabulous because Charlie Brooker is such a fine writer and it was so terrifying. Terrifying, but brilliant. Describing suspense, describing romance. I mean, I'm still doing it because I love it. I love to be able to convey what's on the screen. So I'll do it till I can't tap the keyboard anymore because it gives me such a feeling of satisfaction when I've completed a job as well as I possibly can.
Veronica, thank you very much.
The recording and formatting of this month's newsletter has been a bit of an experiment, and we'd welcome your comments about what you liked or didn't like about this different approach. Please email us on admin@audiodescription.co.uk to let us know your thoughts.